This presentation has flowers in it, and it also has landscaping in it, so it's got a combination of the two. This isn't originally my presentation. I modified it to do that, basically. And one of the things I want to go over just to get started is there's some goals for what I want to do with the presentation tonight. And I'm going to use an example of Google. Everybody's a Google head now, especially if you're like under 25. I don't know if you've ever talked to a lot of people who Google, but they have a lot of information but not a lot of context. A lot of things they know about, they never used it before. Unlike most people in this room, you have a lot of depth to the information you have. A lot of times when you look on Google, you type something in, you get 5 billion hits. I heard it described that Google basically will give you a lake that's a mile wide and an inch deep. So it's pretty shallow. A lot of information, words, things of that nature, but not a lot of context. What do these words mean? What am I going to do with the information that I can get out of Google? In order to try to make a presentation like this make sense, what I want to do is try to take a lake like that, put my native plants, huge topic. A lot of different issues involved with native plants, and kind of narrow it down. Because I know that everybody has focus. And I guess you're coming in tonight asking yourself, what is my focus? You know, is this guy going to tell me to help me do something useful with native plants? The problem areas, you want to try to do like a naturalized area for prairies. You want to try to do something else that we haven't thought of yet. Hopefully, tonight I can get you to take that normal mile wide lake, narrow it down to a channel, maybe give it some depth. So when you leave, if you go to the garden center, and you talk to Alicia, and you talk to somebody in the meeting, or you have basic language, so you can ask fairly intelligent questions. Plus, you can figure out if you're going to a commercial store whether they're trying to sell you something you don't want. That's another big issue too. Specifically, for this presentation, what kind of goals do I want to present to you? And they're kind of, what are native plants? Yeah, duh, you're here. You want to know what native plants are. Why do you use native plants in gardens and landscaping? Obviously, if you're interested in flowers, that's a big aspect. And figuring out what they look like is another big aspect too. Either the Google thing or going to a lot of places, lots of scientific names. What do they look like? That is something that's very important to me. Obviously, if you're into the flower part of it, that's something you're looking for as well. And also, a lot of part, what is involved in growing native plants? Now, you can make an assumption that it was very difficult. Takes a lot of water, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. We wouldn't be talking about it because it doesn't make any sense to do that. You go to the box store and buy a plant that you already waste a lot of time on, maybe for a good reason that you like to put the effort into it or not. So those three goals, what are native plants, why use native plants, and what is involved with growing native plants, those are the kind of the three things we're going to go over tonight. Native plants, look out your window, look at your yard. You've got buckthorn plantain growing out there, dandelions, all kinds of things. What's a weed? What do I consider a weed to be? Well, another person's weed, might not be a weed. I spent 18 years in North Carolina. Met my wife down there. One of the rites of passage for marrying into a Southern family is working at Yankee tobacco field. So at the Yankee, I got that experience. And you're welcome in a Southern family when they actually use the word Yankee in front of you. So, tobacco is a weed, a horrible weed that sucks the life out of the soil, but it's a cash crop too. In the South, it's a crop. Everybody else, it's weed, especially if you're trying to quit smoking. Have a good appreciation for tobacco. So weeds are what you make of them. That's a fairly simple concept. What are native plants? When you look out and around, you see, the ecology like in this area. How is this ecology balanced? Are things fighting each other for reasons you don't understand? Are certain things out there that don't belong and they're brought in from somewhere else? The word indigenous is often used, and indigenous means it belongs or doesn't belong. Where did it come from? For most of the United States, that's a pretty complicated question, because when the settlers came in, they brought a lot of food stocks, medicine stocks, textile stocks that they used for dyeing. Goldenrod was used to dye, also the medicine. Believe it or not, chickweed was a food stock. It's also got like tons of vitamins and minerals in it, and alpha, one of the EPA, the heart cholesterol drugs, got that in it. They brought those weeds over here, and basically they're food stocks. They're weeds to us now. Back then they're food stocks. That's another example of what's a weed to us was something useful to them. A lot of those weeds, when you look out, they look pretty. And if you're you're fighting your garden because it's dry or it's wet or nothing's going right, you see across the road where, it's from a distance, my niece thinks that our front field full of dandelions is beautiful. Well, you just need to hold it. If you can see a field of dolomite in the back lot of your house or land, and that's fine with you, you don't have to mow it, well, then that might be a solution for you. What is native plants? Where that gets tricky is when you start using the word invasive. The box stores that sell a lot of plants haven't been doing this a very good justice. When you bring things in from China, South America, Europe, you're going to have problems. Just any kind of commerce trade is going to bring in seeds, insects, so that's a big problem. Invasive, the DNR people get really upset about that. When you finish with this, they still have maybe enough words you have in mind so you can kind of tell whether or not somebody's trying to sell you something that's invasive. Or they should be able to go and ask Alicia, this is something I want to do, is this something I don't want to do? Sometimes knowing not what to do is more important than actually having an answer to your problem. So, on the next slide, words to know. We've already covered native, which basically is what was growing here before the settlers got here. Good luck with that one. For something that's indigenous, if everything is in balance in your ecology, things aren't fighting each other, that's normally called indigenous. That's normally called native. Exotic, well, coneflowers is a good example. Coneflowers aren't 6 inches. They don't have multicolored petals. And there's a lot of things. If you see a coneflower like that, it's not the one that's growing in the field across from you. It's been modified, either direct genetic manipulation or crossbreeding. You can't get something for nothing. When you crossbreed plants, you have a tendency to optimize part of the plant at the cost of the other. So you get coneflowers with huge petals, different colors, but the stem is small. Or it used to be able to grow in a field that was bone dry, now it won't grow there anymore. So there is a trade-off. So that's when you start looking for sources of plants, box stores, whatever. Is this thing going to live? Is it actually a native plant, or are you selling me something that I really don't want? Let's see. Wildflowers. Well, actually, naturalize is an interesting word. Naturalize is like something you wanted to grow and it got away from it. But it's not invasive. You got petunias growing in the ditch. You got something else growing in tomatoes. Throw tomatoes out, and next thing you know, there's tomatoes growing out of the ditch. I guess that's naturalized tomatoes? No. That's something that got away from you, but not necessarily invasive. It doesn't necessarily harm the ecosystem. Not saying that it's good, but it's not harming. Wildflowers, that's interesting. I'm sure everybody thinks about the wildflower mix, a little pretty keen with all the planet, nothing happens. Or not a lot of the seeds pollinate. That for the ones that grow, they don't grow very well. I've moved around the country. I've lived in North Carolina and California, and I've visited states all over the country. That little can that's in Lowe's, Depot, they sell that everywhere. It's the same can. So tonight we're going to talk about really interesting wildflowers. Where do you get some more specific focus or view toward? I'm in Indiana. I want the seeds that grow here. I'm not interested in the plain states or the South. That kind of direction is something I hope you find. We're going to move on to a little bit more specifics. Talked about this before. Why grow native plants? They're adapted to the soil condition. Our garden last year we barely got the seed back that we put into it. Sitting on the national garden, that's just not too impressive. There's a faith element of agriculture I've learned. You have to have faith. Regardless of everything things don't go right, you're not going to get a result. As far as, native plants, are they adapted to local conditions? Well, weather notwithstanding, no weather withstanding. Recently, I'll look outside. Last week was 80. That's a lot to bear. Native plants so far seem to be doing okay. I'm asking myself the question, if I had non-native plants, would they be doing as well? Well, the frosted the other night, the trees would all be fruitless this year, but besides that. And there's another element to using native plants, which is actually often missing from box growing. They don't reproduce themselves. Their seeds are either not fertile or they're very poor germination. Most native plants have fairly good germination because they've been out in the field for 5,000, 10,000 years. You weren't around to take care of them. So they have to have something going for them. That's one of the things they have going for them is self-germination, or they have some kind of a root mechanism, some kind of rhizome mechanism where they spread. And that's their method of propagation, which is fairly successful for them, which is why they're outside today. The next slide is, we're still on live rotated plants. And another issue is your ecosystem around your house. This is an interesting one. I want more wildlife, more birds, more good things around my house. Those actually bring in better qualities to your ecosystem. As far as wildlife goes, let's talk about insects first, briefly. Aphids, if you got a problem with aphids, tomatoes, beans. If you have a garden at one end of your property and you plant a huge lot of Queen Anne's lace at the other end of the property, you'll find that the aphids don't like your garden anymore. They want to go to Queen Anne's lace. So it's actually like you're building a minimum security prison. They can't, it's like crack cocaine. Aphids, they'll go down there and they'll stay with Queen Anne's lace and they'll leave your garden alone. That, in master gardener terms, is part of what they call integrated pest management. And that is a very ecological way to manage pesticides. There's a lot of examples like that. Golden seal might be that way too. It attracts a lot of moths away. Obviously, the second point on this slide is they don't need fertilizer. Great. Poisons, cover that. If you're building a minimum security prison out of Queen Anne's lace, you're going to use poisons. The next slide is cost. Some of these costs aren't what you think. The first one is, you've got to mow that lot, you've got to mow that fence line. So how do you convert that into something that's not costing you money? Prairie grasses, shrubs, native shrubs, something that will not cost you money at $4.50 a gallon. That kind of makes sense on it, but not that much. The one that most people really don't think about, I used to work for Rainbird irrigation company. I used to design a system to do radio satellite links to Disney and control all their watering, a lot of the home systems. I worked on those. For most municipalities, most cities, the largest part of their budget is the cost involved, the expense in actually pumping water. Now, that's paid for. You get water when you pay it. So it's not, it's taxation, it's directly funded. But when you look at the city's budget, the amount of money they have to spend on electricity, pump water, is one of their biggest costs. If you think about it, makes sense. You're picking up huge, heavy buckets of water, you're pulling it all the way out and down, 150, 250 feet. You're having to distribute it. We have 300 feet of beds. It's all automated. It's all drip. It's very efficient. Just drip everywhere. So you think I don't use much water at all. About 350 feet of beds. When you turn the valves on, the valve is just whistling. I mean, it is going full blast. It's probably 20 gallons a minute. A lot of a small thing adds up to a lot. So even though it's drip, even though it's the best we can do, it's still expensive. With native plants, you're not doing it. You're putting your investment in something going out the water. Maybe mulch a little bit, and give it some advantage to help it grow a little bit more. More specifically, so let's get our focus down. Start out with a lake, a dry lake that's a mile wide. Throw some terms in there to get comfortable with it. Now we've got some water in the lake. Now we need to narrow that thing down to a channel. For everybody who's in here, you're probably all going to have different goals for what you want to do with native plants. And some of the documentation that Purdue puts out, this of course a lot of these seminars, I have listed. And I've also got a copy of each of these in the back so you can take a look at them after the presentation. Often the solution for tough growing areas. They've got an application note for dry or wet soil, shaded areas, hot areas, septic tanks, and walnut trees. Just so happens that our house has all that. And more. So it's obviously why I have kind of a focus for native plants. When you go a little bit further and once again trying to look at your focus on what you're trying to accomplish, leave here, what did I remember? If you're in the the next slide, we're looking at creating a low maintenance area. We're looking at the obvious ones. There's a lot of different ones, black-eyed Susans, milkweed, ground ivy. If you're looking for a naturalized area, this is one of the things I wanted to point out on this slide. If you're really into naturalized area, if you get a relatively large area, I don't know, a quarter of an acre or larger, and you want to naturalize it, you want to convert it to grasses, you want to convert that to wildflowers or a mix. There's a place, or actually a place in Fort Wayne, it's called metropolitanparks.org, and Alicia can help you get in contact with them if you're really interested. And they have a program there. Mary Klump runs it, Master Gardener, and she naturalizes huge areas around the state. And they grow their own seed, and it's a process. And I'm an engineer. I watched the process, and I wouldn't have thought that's what you would have to do to naturalize an area. It's tried and true, they try different methods. That is what works, and that's the one they prescribe. So you can get that information. If you're wanting to do it in a larger area, that's something that there are resources available for that. One of the things I wanted to point out before going on as far as focus, there's as far as you know, the technical part of why native plants actually are working for you and not against you. A lot of the things, and I've got some listed here, burdocks at the bottom. Yeah, burdock is an interesting thing. Actually, that actually was a transplant from Europe. If you break the stem off of it, it's good for it's like astringent bugs and stuff like that. You can, in the spring, you can break the center stalk out and boil it, and you get it. I can't remember what it tastes like. I would not do any of what I just described because it's very similar to hemlock, the leaves. So I've never gone there. It's good to know. I wouldn't want to eat it. Let's put it that way. Using burdock as an example, its root system goes down 20-30 feet. Well, the reason it's surviving is we're running out of taproot down 20-30 feet. What is that doing? The first year it's getting established, so it's stealing surface moisture, which is why it's a weed and people hate it. Years after that, though, it doesn't require much surface moisture. It's just drawing this moisture down from below. If you actually go around the burdock plant, when it's dry as a bone outside, you'll notice that underneath that burdock plant, it is moist. It creates a microclimate around that burdock plant. There's also a weed called purslane, which is actually just like a little cover plant, makes a great ground cover. If it's left to starve on its own, it just kind of covers your entire garden. If you actually water it just a little bit, it turns into this huge mass of rubber plant-looking ground cover, which is very attractive. Plantain, I don't think anybody wants to use plantain as ground cover. That's another example of when it's bone dry in your yard, you go out and look around the plantain, buckthorn plantain, it's moisture around that. Use the soil measurement for moisture. It's moisture around that plantain than it is anywhere else. That's what makes native plants work for you, is their ability to have a deeper root system that from the second or third year when they're established, they actually bring moisture up to the surface and create like a microclimate around the plant. I'm trying to get that third one, research into that, and actually make a presentation on that just by itself. For people who actually want to do a hybrid, where you might have purslane, using you've got clay soil, but you want to grow annuals there, use purslane as a cover, bring moisture up, and then you put annuals on top of it to grow through the purslane. Some kind of combination like that. Like I said, it's a kind of work in progress. Getting even more specific on the next slide. Trees and shrubs, grasses and lawns, ground covers, flowers. Those are basically the kind of things we've already talked about. Things to consider. The next slide with native plants. And this is where you kind of have to rely on some information sources. You go to the show. You can see them in the box stores. It's almost like buying a dog when you buy like a St. Bernard, it's a little piece. You think that's what's going to be when it grows up. It's Indian grass, so it's about this tall. You know, that's kind of the thing to avoid. Knowing how large your native plant's going to be in this important, obviously. How wide it's going to spread. If you got if you're trying to do ground cover, even with a taller plant, you're going to want to cover all the ground and mulch it. But then again, you're putting something into it, maybe you don't want to do it. When you mix the two, you've got some kind of ground cover, like an ivy, and you've got some kind of grass with it, that would work as well. You get really creative with that. There's also an issue with, when you're talking about native plants, what do I want to start with? What am I comfortable with working with? Am I good at starting things from the seed? I'm not. So I would probably experiment with plants first. And later on in the presentation, one of the handouts you've gotten is from an organization that specializes in telling you where to get the plants, where to go get the seed, and reputable sources, and we'll cover that later on. The next slide is for those people whose focus is what I talked about earlier, metroparks.org. If you're trying to actually do a prairie type condition, if you're trying to convert a piece of lowland property into something that's not arable anymore, but it's something that you can get a tax break on or things like that. You can actually plant that in grasses and wildflowers. If I was going to do wildflowers, obviously I want out where I can see it. Obviously I can from my house. My wife and I actually talked about it. We have like a 3-acre alfalfa field, which is actually not really alfalfa anymore. It's a little bit of everything. We talked about converting it into wildflowers. And when I do that, I'm going to basically use the method that metroparks.org is advocating. And it's rather interesting. Like, how did y'all think of that? It was hand-to-hand combat, tried and true over a long period of years. You really have to appreciate the experience, the depth of knowledge, not just the words. So they've actually put the iron to the fire and figured out how to do these kind of things. Let's see if there's anything else there. For the grasses, obviously for grasses, they're going to grow where you need to because grasses generally are plain state kind of plants that basically don't need a lot of water by definition. We've already talked about the taller grasses, the medium grasses. I'm not so familiar with the smaller ones, but there's quite a few of them. And there's a lot of, it's going to come up on the next slide, so there's a lot of names, a lot of plants that I actually don't know. And I'm going to give you solutions how to figure that out. I try as a master gardener to know scientific names. My grandma knew all of the local names, but when it comes down to actually choosing, you have to know what they look like. I'm going to try to do a couple minutes. The next slide is trying to do native plants for a sunny area. This is covered by one of the handouts also that. And you should put that in on the internet. A lot of these things on the internet, I don't know how many of you actually are adept at going, beating your head against the wall, or having your fingers bleed and your eyes are bloodshot on Google. But if you've got a niece or nephew or grandchildren that are really got the computers, you can bribe them with like an energy drink from the convenience store, get them to sit down with me 10 minutes, here, pull us up, I'll give you a Red Bull. They'll go for that maybe. Probably an easier path would be to talk to Alicia or go to the library, because I know Alicia doesn't work at 9 p.m. at night. You go by the library and they'll be more than happy to sit down with the computer, because Alicia can give you the keys to understand how to do a lot of the searches. And then if you get off course, if you go to the library, they can help you with your journey. That's a fairly easy thing to do. Now, as far as the sunny plants, you look at this list. A lot of you cone flowers, obviously the milkweeds, black-eyed Susans, blah, blah. The cone flowers are fairly obvious. Phloxes, I'm familiar with those. Not so much blanket flower. I tried to grow blanket flowers for seeds. Horrible. I got a new plant. I bet I did over 600 seeds last year out of one plant. It was just, I'm a master gardener. I should be able to do this. Why can't I do it? Still trying to figure that out. There's something I'm missing. But yeah, blanket flower, it's very pretty. Drought resistant. Once you get it going, it's like flamethrower thing. It comes back up. So to get it started, I'm not quite sure what part of the plan is. On the next slide, the native plants for shady areas. Oh yeah, shady areas. We're not talking about places where they sell drugs and stuff. We're talking about shady areas around here. This isn't going to help the crack house. It's like 10 miles away. This is going to be for places around your house that don't have a lot of light, let's put it that way. Some of these, Jack in the Pulpit, online, Woodland Fox, to me is dark green, looks like lily of the valley kind of. It's got like a little 4-petal, really small flower that's really sweet smelling. The asters, I'm familiar with some of those. That's about it on that. Northern Ceos, I've seen a picture of it. Sedges, yeah, sedges. They're grass, but they're not grass. They look like grass, the head's different, and the stem is kind of triangle shaped. So that's a kind of different classification. If you didn't know what a sedge was, I wouldn't care. They give an entire class of how to identify sedges, those grasses. Get rid of that thing. Going to the next slide for your focus. You can sit here listening to me and saying, I don't really like any of that. I really came to hear about shrubs. Shrubs, quite a few shrubs. Very few of them are actually listed here. I know the winterberry, I think, might do some correction. I think the winterberry actually keeps loose. It's actually quite attractive. Food hydrant, I doubt it does. Burns, there's lots of burns. Listen of burns. These are, I doubt seriously these are only the only one. But if you go to site level plan later on, they got tons of ornamental shrubs with pictures, which is great. Yeah. Let's go to the last on this next slide. Ornamental trees. Oh, going back to the shrubs, this would be a focus. If you have a focus like this, I suspect it's because you got a ditch. There you're going to want to grow there's some natural erosion control. The shrubs would be good way to go around. And they're ornamental. Those will focus. As far as trees in general, you got a ditch, or you got something or someone on the other side of the location you're trying to hide. Somebody's trash, somebody's old car. Doing that in a native tree would really be helpful. Dogwoods are obvious. I'm not familiar with other dog. Here we have the urbans again. Sumacs, if you like them, they get fairly dense, and obviously they have that reddish leaf at the end of the summer. They also have the red berries. The Boy Scouts will make lemonade out of it. I never wanted to actually try it or drink it, because there's poison sumac. It's a whole different thing. I just can't get over that. Northern cacao. I didn't know the cacao, but I thought they brought it in. I've seen cacao trees growing around here, and I thought they brought it in. They actually grow it there. Pawpaws, I've seen pictures of them. I walked past them. A friend of mine who's a forester said, yeah, you know what it is. You just pay attention. None of these other ones I'm not quite sure about, but they're also the site that I'm going to give you at the end is also very specific about all the different kinds you can buy and where you can buy them. For trees, you're putting in some nodding. We're not talking about bags of seeds here. We're talking about trees, so you want to buy it from a reputable source. And the listing of the company I'm giving you basically a pretty good listing of those. Wait for the next slide. What is in your yard? You've got a local ecosystem around your yard. I guess one of the first questions to ask yourself is what is growing around my house that I know, guarantee will grow if I move it. It's on your land, so you can move whatever you want to. It's not as if you're going out to the state park and digging it out, which I don't think they would appreciate. A lot of native plant presentations actually say, don't give them out there, it's your land. I've not got an argument for that yet. But if you go outside, I went outside yesterday with my camera, and this is the horrible, invasive, ubiquitous, means it's everywhere, chickweed. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. So it is invasive, but found a place like on the side of our house, we tried to grow ferns. We haven't good figure out how we can grow ferns over there. We have a nice little place where it's timbers, nice landscape. Ferns we can grow there. We tried several things there. Basically, the chickweed took it over, and it looked like a huge palm. Like you're walking on the wild side if you're advocating using chickweed as a landscape native plant. Huge mounds of rolling chickweed. It was absolutely gorgeous. Looked like a huge giant Irish moss. And the thing about it was, is when you look at it, it's at the end of the house, the north side. Chickweed is like a vampire. It can't like sunlight. Sunlight will kill it, or at least get it down to the point where it's not propagating and spreading as fast. So it's contained on that side of the house. The grass was spotted. The chickweed's grown out into the grass. When you look at that side of the house, it's beautiful. The grass is green and it's all green. If you look real close, you can see the chickweed in it. Chickweed's not, if you walk on it, it's going to crush it. It's not heavy traffic there. But I'm not quite sure what this is an example of. A normal, totally invasive weed that farmers, with low crops, their crops have some fight. In our case, actually, the solution for the problem we had not really solved yet. On the next slide, this is another one of these. It's in our yard. This is out in front. I'm pretty sure this is swordgrass. It's not river grass because it doesn't have lines in it. It's not sawgrass because the blade's over ½ inch wide. If you run through it, it will cut the crap out of your legs, but still a sharp angle. I'm pretty sure it's swordgrass. In this location, it floods there every year. And the summer's bone dry. This grass is there all the time. So, cut that up in clumps, move it into a different location, and I found something on my property. I really do need to identify it though, before I do this. Maybe it's invasive, I'll move it somewhere else. But that is the solution. I just need to figure out what it is, and I have to do that plant somewhere else on my property. On the next slide, oh, creeping ivy. Creeping ivy. Brown creeping ivy. It's got other names, Charlie, Blue Balm, Cat's Foot. I don't know that last word. Never heard that one before. It's got purple flowers. I agree, it's kind of hard to see. Usually it's a whole bed in the spring of very low, natty, fine. You can eat it. I don't know if I would. I've never tasted it. The purple flowers are very beautiful. Excellent ground cover, it goes everywhere. And it's fairly well contained. Ground yard, all it down, where you can trim it out, where you use, a herbicide. And that thing, go back to the last slide. That thing is when the Arctic Circle down to the equator. It's everywhere. Go to the next slide. I can call her Hunchy, she's not alive. She was coming home from work, she wanted to stop and see how she loves to hear my presentation. Does anyone know what this is? I do not have a clue. Do you know what this is, Alicia? Is it invasive? Everywhere. Is it?
What was it called again? Purple henbit?
Henbit.
Henbit? Yep, henbit. Like
Oh,
a chicken?
H-E-N-B-I-D.
Correct.
If I don't plant my garden, this is going to take over. How high does this get? Does it get way? Am I missing?
6 to 8 inches is about the maximum height that I've seen, but it will cover everything.
It is everywhere, but it has this purple haze to it, and this actually probably is an example of something you wouldn't want to use as a ground cover, even though it's covering all my ground. I love the flowers, and I think most of this disappears when it gets warm. So basically, it's the flower going, you never see them for the rest of the year. Let's get down to actually putting the pedal to the metal, the tires to the road. We talked about a lot of things. Going back to my earlier analogy of the mile-wide lake that you can Google. I've given you some terms. Hopefully you take those terms, go back and reference this, and go to either Alicia, Cal Extension Service, or you can go to a site like this, which is NPAWS. It's the Indiana Native Plant and Wildflower Society. Are we blessed or what? A whole organization in Indiana that just does wildflowers for our benefit. Just can't get any better than this. If you go to their website, if you're going to do that, if you have the ability to do that, Alicia can help you out. They have, write them and they can send you actual documentation, things they do. It's not necessarily an internet only. Alicia might have some information, I'm not sure. It's fairly easy to come by. And what makes this place a little bit better is if you look at the next slide. Yeah. They have all kinds of information. I actually tried to copy the entire site on a flash drive so I could bring it in and show you. It was like 1.5 gigabytes, which is huge. It's like, wouldn't fit on my flash drive. So the flash drive's full, so I said, well, none of that. I wouldn't do it because I didn't have internet here. You plug that in, simulate an internet connection. Something already pulled off the internet head. This is what I talked about earlier. This is something that's very important to me is, scientific names, size, what does the thing look like? If you're into the flowers part of it, yeah, you're going to want to know. And that's why you're here, that's what you want. As far as the trees go, it's not obvious on that, but you scroll down, and this, because it has flowers, ground covers, and vines. Later on the same page, you scroll down and you have thumbnails for trees. They show you what the tree looks like in the middle of summer, what it looks like in the fall, what the seeds look like, what the flowers look like. So they're very thorough on that. And that's not good enough. They also have a USDA site that they actually will direct you to other sites to get even more information about it. They're linked very well. It's not like it confuses anything. So you can get in there and get exactly what you need. You don't have to wander all over the place. This is the place you need to start with. There's other places you can look for information, but this is actually above training wheel. here, but still, it's a good place to start. You're trying to find out what your focus is, and hopefully trying to get that direction tonight. What is your focus? What kind of information do you need? This site here is very useful in doing that. One of the last things that I want to leave you with, going back to the Google conundrum, Red Bull and energy drinks aside, I don't know if you typed in Google before, but type in purple coneflower. You get 5 billion hits. Very, very good. The term I usually describe it as blind leads. Like, what do I do with all this information? For purple coneflower, chances are the information is going to be very direct. So they're trying to sell you something. Information sounds great. You know, there's a tree I can grow in my yard that grows 5 feet a year. They don't tell you that when the first wind comes around, it blows it in half. You know, little things like that. What's the motive of people to put information on Google and do like the first 10 hits? Is that all the information I need in the whole world? I've often wondered what the world would look like if we used the first 10 hits of Google to describe the world around us. Type in the words you know, type it into Google, and paint a picture using the first 10 hits you get. I don't think it would be a very attractive world, to be honest with you. If you go back to the analogy of the example of purple coneflower, type that in, 5 billion hits, not happy. If you go to the bottom of the page, the box down here, they've changed this. Of course they've changed this. They always change this. It doesn't look like this anymore. The information is the same, but it looks different. You go down to this bottom, and you type in purdue.edu, or, okay, let's use that as an example. If you type in purdue.edu and you hit this box that's right below that says search, again, this is search, it'll take those 5 billion hits that you got on this generic coneflower, sort those out. In this case, it's going to show you everything that Purdue offers in the way of information on purple coneflower, which may be a lot, maybe nothing. Okay, let's change that a little bit. Go down in this box, which once again is when you hit the advanced search at the bottom of your first page, type in star here instead of Purdue. And what that does, star is like an internet, we call it a wow character. It kind of means shut up and do what I want. Put a star in there, star.edu. What that does is it goes through the entire internet and only searches university sites that have the EDU extension, which is basically what EDU is for, college sites, research facilities. I'm sure there's high schools and elementary schools in there, but I don't think they have very many offerings for coneflower. So that's something you can use to filter out a lot of information and get you where you need to go. It's very little effort. And I think, go to the last slide. Here's my name again. That's going to be important to you. You need to remember my name. If you go and like the end of this week, I'll put this up on Google slides. You can see the slides, and I'll put some links in the description for YouTube. Once again, if you have to and you're not adept at it, get your grandkids and get your nieces and nephews and Bible and fill energy drink. They'll type it in for you. If you type in my name, Russell with one L, Dean Leatherman, just go into Google and type that. What you'll get is a bunch of stuff. It's all mine. A bunch of patents and stuff. I'm an independent researcher. I do research on a whole bunch of things. And the result of that are patents. However, you'll get a lot of videos that I put on YouTube. Actually, there's one entry that says, click here to see all Dean Leatherman's videos on YouTube. They're all, they're all family videos. A lot of them are Master Gardener oriented. I'll put them underneath that heading. There's also a bunch of, I'm a videographer, a nature videographer, so there's a whole bunch of videography stuff that I put on it. But if you type that in, you'll find it. If you want to be more specific, type in, I'll put keywords with it so you can find it easier. Type my name in and type Auburn, or type native plants, and the video will pop up. You don't have to look at all my other crap. So that'll get you in the direction you need to go as far as pointing out that video. And like I said, for the earlier in the presentation, there were some references from Purdue, excellent references, and that's what Master Gardening is all about, is using information that the Extension Service provides, not making it up on our own, and giving it to you or actually telling you where it's at. That's what Alicia does, the Extension Service, is guide you to information that's already known. They're constantly updating and changing, so it's pretty good information. The list that I had there, I've given her examples. I've actually printed them out so she can show you what they look like so you can go through them. and look and see if she can get you a copy, or you can write the number down and get a copy of your own. That's really helpful. So we got your type line amen, and we did the video, this presentation. We go and look at all of these references, which will get you a lot more information. So hopefully, through this process tonight, once again, back to the tire analogy of the mile-wide lake, we started out with too wide, too shallow. Hopefully, we found the focus a little bit narrower, has a little depth to it. We can get you on the way to asking some questions that will actually help you get to what you need to do. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I do have some time for some questions. Open the floor, maybe some comments that y'all can share about about things that you've learned for doing native plants. I don't know if you have any questions, but I'll take those now for you. Yes?
I have a home garden, planting garden this year. I want to plant it in a wildflower or maybe prairie, whatever.
The entire area?
Like 100 feet diameter. But I didn't till I go that first.
In your case,
Or was that killer things there or what? Right now it's 30 feet.
for till plant, I actually know the answer to that question. If you actually went to the people full land, if you've got a piece of untilled land, it's a lot more difficult. But yeah, you can have it under control as far as the weeds go. Usually you need to till it off, let it grow back up, kill it off, maybe 3 or 4 purple-sided plantings, and then go into the fall, and then actually plant it then with the seeds. Yeah, and you will actually get mileage out of that. You actually get some mileage out of it. You need to check the planting. I actually need to check the planting period on that to see whether it's fall or spring. I'm pretty sure it's fall.
From what I've read,
But I remember from Mary Clunk's presentation at the state conference last year, there was something they were doing in the spring. They probably need to check on that. So, any other questions or any other comments? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Alicia for having me over. Have me over again sometime. Not too far away. Enjoyed it. One of the things about Master Gardeners is we all have focuses. So this is my focus. So DeKalb County can use me. Allen County can use me. All the counties don't have to have somebody who knows everything about everything, which is not possible. Even if I'm talking about this, it's going to be shallow in a lot of spots. So appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for coming out this evening. Hopefully we can